It's time for the top 10 Netflix movies of 2019. Some of you asked why there were no Amazon or Netflix or Hulu or Shudder movies on my top 10 films of the year, and that's for a couple of reasons. One, the only streaming service that we can watch over here and see the movies on is Netflix. Amazon doesn't let us watch any of the movies. Shudder is not here. Hulu is not here. Disney Plus is not here. All of these other streaming services don't work in Qatar unless you pirate the shows and movies, and I'm not going to do that. And the second reason is because it is two completely different viewing experiences. Going to the theater and seeing something on the big screen just feels completely different. Sometimes I prefer that depending on the type of movie, but sometimes I prefer just watching a movie or a show back at home on my comfortable couch in front of my big screen TV, where I don't have to deal with a bunch of people on their phones or walking in front of the screen or doing anything like that. And of course, I can have any kind of snacks that I like. But I do want to say that I think these movies and original series that these streaming services are putting out are just as good and sometimes better than what Hollywood is putting out. The main reason I did two separate lists is really just because there was so much stuff that I saw at the theater and so much stuff that I saw on Netflix that I really loved, and I didn't want to have to squeeze it all into one smaller list. So with that being said, let's get to my top 10 movies for 2019 on Netflix. First, let's start off with the honorable mentions. Rich People Divorce Story, Oscar Bait the Movie, Captain Israel Civil War, How the Police Used to Operate Before Cell Phones, Four Kings, and that's it for the honorable mentions. Now for the top 10. Six Underground is Michael Bay at his Michael Bayest. This is pure unadulterated Bayhem. They give him $150 million to whip out his Johnson and to wipe it all over our faces, and that's what he does. The movie follows a team of special operators who fake their own deaths so that they can go after the biggest bad guys on the planet. They have 8 targets, and this is the first one, so you know there's definitely going to be sequels. This movie was super divisive when it came out. People either really loved it or hated it. I loved it because it is so bad that it is amazing. There's so much great graphic, gory violence in this. I just love it. I adore it. If that's not your thing, if you can't appreciate campy schlock, then this probably won't be for you. But if you love that sort of thing, you just want to sit down, eat your popcorn, shut your brain off, and watch people kick ass, then this is the movie for you. Fire, the Greatest Party That Never Happened is a pretty damn good documentary about the debacle that was the Fire Festival. Basically, a bunch of rich kids spent tons and tons of money on a festival that they had no proof really existed other than some stupid social media campaigns. When they showed up, they saw that the place was a disaster. But the thing is, a bunch of people told them that beforehand, and instead of asking for refunds, they went anyways. And then they got mad that their money was wasted on this stupid crap. They could have went to any other douchey festival in the world, but they chose to go to this one because it had all of the cool social media influencers telling them that they should go. That's basically what this movie is, and that's basically what the festival was. And I love watching it. I love watching all of these entitled kids being pissed off that they got screwed because they were stupid enough to fall for this. Anyway, next movie. Knock Down the House is another fantastic documentary from Netflix. Over 520 women ran for seats in the House of Representatives. This is the story of 4 of them. It shows all of the stuff that they had to do, the obstacles they had to overcome. They wanted to help their community, their families. Spoiler alert, AOC, we know, she won, and she's made a huge difference since she's been in the House. What will happen with the 3 other candidates? You need to watch and find out. People not believing in them, people not knowing who they are, and that's the thing. People want established politicians who want more of the same, where these women really wanted to make a difference. It's a very, very admirable thing. It shows if you really try hard enough and you know how to play the game, then you can eventually maybe make it into politics without having to be a douchey politician, and that's why I dig this movie. I Am Mother follows an artificial intelligence trying to raise a baby after the fall of mankind. That's right, humanity has gone extinct, but luckily we left behind this program that lets this robot raise infants to adulthood. And this movie is all about the robot trying to do the right thing to teach the kid how to be a good person. Once she has achieved that, then they will have more kids hatched, and then humanity will begin again. But the problem is an outsider, a rare survivor, has made their way into the compound and is now causing issues for the program and for Mother and her adopted daughter. Will the stranger lead to the extinction of humanity once again, or will they find harmony in the compound and help humanity thrive? With an amazing mix of practical effects and CGI, plus some great performances by all three actresses, this is a movie to watch, especially if you're looking for some unique sci-fi. El Camino answers the question we've all been asking for years. What happened to Jesse? The movie starts right where the series left off. Jesse has escaped the compound, Walter White is dead, and now Jesse has to try to escape. Without being caught by the law. But of course, he's going to need ID, he's going to need money, he's going to need a lot of stuff to get out on his own and to make it past law enforcement and to be able to have his freedom once again. And that's the whole point of the movie. The movie is very tense. It has some great performances. It has a great continuation of the Breaking Bad story, and it really puts an end to the whole thing. I honestly wasn't sure what to expect. I didn't really have high hopes or low expectations. I figured it would be okay, but I thought it was a pretty great movie. And unlike a lot of things with Breaking Bad, the ending, depending on your taste, can be really satisfying or really frustrating. It can be a challenging movie, but I think either way, you're gonna dig it. Martin Scorsese's The Irishman is an instant gangster movie classic. It does tread some of the same ground that Goodfellas or Casino did, but it does so in a much more in-depth manner. You see a lot more of the repercussions. You see more of the inner workings of the mob, the union, and how people's relationships change over time, because this movie covers about 50 years in each of the characters' lives. And to do that, of course, everyone knows about the amazing de-aging process that they did to show Pacino, Pesci, and De Niro's characters in the different phases of their lives. There's tons of interesting cutaways. Some of them are only for a few seconds, but you can tell they spent a lot of time and money to make those few seconds explosive and very interesting. If you haven't seen this movie, you need to sit down and watch it as a whole movie. Don't break it up into sections like some people are recommending. You wouldn't do that to Endgame, so don't do it to this movie. Give it the respect that it deserves. It's not my top film of the year. It's still amazing, but it's not the best thing that's ever come out. It's not the best thing that Scorsese's ever done. That's Raging Bull or Goodfellas to me. I definitely recommend that you check out The Irishman. The King was a huge surprise to me. I didn't expect to like this movie, but I ended up really enjoying it. One, because I love historically based stuff. I love period pieces. It has a lot of great, intriguing backstory, drama, so much good violence. It has a lot of plotting and scheming and political stuff. This is like Game of Thrones without the dragons, but it has a good ending. The cinematography is drop dead gorgeous. The acting is fantastic. Robert Pattinson really shines as a Frenchman, which I didn't think he'd be able to pull off, but he just chews the scenery. Timothée Chalamet is pretty impressive in this. I wouldn't mind seeing him in other action stuff. I think he has the chops to pull it off, especially when I saw some pictures come out of him wearing a blouse when they were doing the run up to the film. If you're looking for an interesting, actually pretty manly movie, this is something that you will enjoy. I highly recommend you check it out. I mean, obviously, I put it number 4 on my list over The Irishman, so, watch it. Dolomite is My Name is a biopic about Rudy Ray Moore, one of my favorite comedians ever since I was a little kid. Yes, I definitely shouldn't have been listening to or watching Rudy Ray Moore, aka Dolomite, as a child, but my dad didn't really think about that kind of stuff. He also used to show me Cheech and Chong. This movie is a lot of fun, very positive, empowering movie. You feel like if this guy can do something, then I can do something if I really put my mind to it. Everybody in this movie acts their ass off. There's so many good performances. If you enjoy comedy with substance, I highly recommend that you watch it for this amazing ensemble cast. Pretty funny and interesting story, and of course it makes you feel good when you finish watching it. Not many movies do that these days. American Factory for me was the best documentary to come out this year. Not just one of the best documentaries, but one of the best movies to come out this year. And that's not just because I am a documentary filmmaker, but because it is massive in scale. They go over so many things. They were there for a long time to make this movie. When I was watching this movie, I was just in awe. I couldn't imagine how many people they had filming, how complicated it was to edit. And it's not just the actual execution of the film, it's the content, it's what happens. Basically, America's screwed up right now. A lot of people are losing their jobs. Our jobs are being exported to overseas because it's cheaper for companies. But in this case, it's an actual Chinese company who came to America, and it's definitely a fish out of water story for both the Americans and the Chinese workers involved. And that's one of the best things about the movie, the relationships that these people form, be they positive in nature or adversarial. I'm definitely not going to tell you how it turns out, but you gotta watch this just to see what the state of American employment is. I Lost My Body is truly something special. I did not expect this movie at all. Yes, graphically it's beautiful. They spent a lot of time on the animation, you can tell. You have these shifting timelines, and each of those timelines definitely has its own style, so you can clearly tell which one is which. Some people are a little bit confused about the ending, but that's because I think they weren't paying attention. And this movie, even though it's an animated film, is extremely dense. There are a lot of layers here. There's much more depth in this movie than most movies on this list and most movies that released in theaters. The entire time I watched it, it was just discovery after discovery, not just about the movie, but it made me think about things in myself, and it made me think about what would happen if certain situations arose, what would I do? Yes, the premise is a bit strange. This guy gets into an accident, he loses his hand, and later on, the hand tries to track him down and does a journey, Homeward Bound style. This is just a visual spectacle while being a deep, heartwarming story that really does something different, something that I've never seen before. Go watch it now. So those are my top 10 Netflix original films. So as you can see, it's a pretty eclectic selection, and that's because I have varied tastes. I don't have just one thing that I like more than others. I am a documentary filmmaker, so I love good documentaries. I am kind of jaded, and I was in the military. I've seen lots of death and violence and stuff like that, so I enjoy a cathartic release through violent films. It's not going to be one thing or another that I prefer. If it's good, and that's what it is. Anyway, that's it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.